Hello and welcome to this special edition of Crossy's Corner about a fantastic new event that we're going to get into. And to help us with that, we have got the event director. I don't know if that's what I should be calling you, Gene, but we've got the event director, Gene Kinnemouth, all the way from High Point, North Carolina, USA. Hi, Gene.
Good afternoon, Martin. How are you? Or good evening, rather.
Yeah, it's good evening for me and good afternoon for you. Just tell us why people are getting so excited about this Lenny Peters Cup event. I'm not sure whether to call it the Lenny Peters Cup event or Team USA versus the rest of the world. Maybe you can help us there.
Yeah. So the event is named after Dr. Lenny Peters, who is he's not just a doctor, but he's a very successful businessman and philanthropist here in High Point, North Carolina. And his goal is just to really promote this city, both within North Carolina and now around the world. And he has supported a lot of different profit organizations around this city over the last 10 years. And I initially asked him for a grant just to support the regatta, just to sort of get some additional things we needed for the event. And he gave us $25,000. And some of his staff showed up to that first event, and they were like, "Wow, this is really cool." And this is like nothing we ever expected. We're going to go back and tell Dr. Peters about this. And so Dr. Peters showed up to the next event. And he was, this is something that can really put this city on the map. And so since then, from an initial $25,000 contribution, he's now contributing well over $200,000 in the last 12 months to support the rowing events and bring teams here to High Point. And initially it was a collegiate event. We had Duke University come out and race Ukraine, the Olympic women. And
yeah,
but actually before that we had the University of Cambridge come out, but we had a hurricane come through that event, and they didn't actually get to race. And then last fall we had University of Oxford come out with Ukraine to race Duke, our new Division 1 High Point University program, and Old Dominion. And of course you commentated that great race between Oxford, Old Dominion and HPU, which is, if people haven't watched it, they should go back and watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun with the ducks and everything. I'll get into the ducks later, but so I'm guessing an international event was for you and Lenny the next step.
Yes. So part of becoming sort of more international from a national team perspective, or international rowers rather than colleges, that evolution came about because we do these two events each year, one in April, one in October. And our April event, it's a really tough time to get colleges here because their own schedules. They have to race 2,000 meters. Our race course, it's an amazing race course, but it's only 1,500 meters, which by coincidence happens to be the Olympic distance now.
I know, that's amazing.
He said, well, let's get some national team rowers in. We brainstormed, and we thought the sculling would be the way to really highlight the sport more, promote our US national team, our Team USA, and also give an opportunity for some of the great names in rowing to come to America and race here.
Yeah, that's sensational. So it's not that easy, first of all, to get a whole US national team to turn up. I mean, maybe it is, maybe you have special powers, or indeed, such a strong rest of the world team. Let's look at Team USA first. How on earth did you get Josie Verdonschot, who's the US chief coach? How did you get him to post his best athletes, or to include his best athletes in the Lenny Peters Cup?
Yeah, look, I think that's probably a whole separate interview for you to have with you.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'd love to do it. I don't want to pretend to be able to read the motives. But I think that if you just look at the administration of US rowing in the most recent years, they're looking to really develop the sport from ground roots level, make it more accessible, make it more teams more open to people from all backgrounds. And they've got quite a bit of criticism for that. But I think in Yosi's mind, he said, okay, we're making great strides there. How can we promote this sport at the top end? And I think that was his motivation for saying yes to this idea of having this event with Olympic medalists from around the world coming and racing Team USA's top scullers. And I think it's sort of he's looking at it from a top-down approach. How can we promote the sport? How can we find out who our top rowers are here in America? Because a lot of people who love this sport of rowing in America, they don't know who the top scullers are. And this is one way we can find out, the names, see the faces, and really promote it. Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can take a look at the people he's bringing. Maggie Fellows is on the team, and who finished first in the winter speed orders. Was that the racing at Sarasota, Gene?
Yeah, so that was, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago. They did the speed orders in Sarasota to see who the top scullers were, and they used that to determine who would come and race here at the Lenny Peters Cup. And
yeah,
so those the 4 scullers on the men's side and the women's side, they all agreed to come, and we're looking forward to having them. They're going to be showing up.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So Grace Joyce, who I know was in Paris in the American quad scull, the is it Badger from the University of Wisconsin, the former Badger, or she's probably still a Badger actually, not a former Badger. Is that right?
Sure, once a Badger, always a Badger.
Yeah. So such a strong program, the University of Wisconsin, and there's an example of it. Issa Darwin, that I don't know, but she's had fantastic success in the Pan Ams. And then another Olympian who is
Asa Jakowski.
Asa Jakowski, yeah. And she's quite young. She was only 24 at the Paris Olympics. And I think she's still going to be 24 this year. Parents were both rowers at the US Naval Academy and encouraged her to try the sport. But I don't think that worked until she got to Stanford. So the women's team, they're all at the top of the pile in the US at the moment. And I guess that's the case for the men, isn't it? Jacob Pihal, who raced in Paris, won the C final at the in the single sculls at the games.
Did he race Ollie in the final at Henley?
Oh, that's a great shout. I think you might be right, actually. Yeah, that is a really good shout.
Either the final or perhaps Saturday's semi-final.
Yeah. Never to be forgotten race.
Miserable weather day, which I believe was Sunday, the same day University of Washington ended up on the booms in the Grand.
I know, that was a shocker. Sam Melvin, who's been so fast in the lightweight single, it looks like he's going open weight now. Chris Carlson, who's an Olympic bronze medalist from the 8. And third place at the trials, Cedar Cunningham. I don't know Cedar at all, but it's obviously he's making great steps to being on the national team, graduate of Washington State University. So these guys are in pretty good shape, and they've proved that by doing so well in the trials. So they're coming to this event, which is on Saturday. What about the rest of the world team? How easy / challenging was it for you to put together the rest of the world team?
Well, I have you to thank for most of it, Martin. for viewers who don't know, which is everybody except for you and me, when I committed to this concept with Dr. and told him, I think we can do this. I think it was in mid-November, late November. I suddenly realized none of these people know who I am. None of these people have heard of High Point, North Carolina. Why wouldn't an Olympic medalist come here and race? And so that was when I realized I need to call up Martin Cross to figure out who he knows might be interested in coming and doing this. So you've been my point of reference, and I'm very grateful to you for that.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you've got a great team together, and that's despite the attractions of the boat race, which is the same weekend, the British rowing trials, which is that weekend, the Pier de Luco regatta, where you've got Italians and Romanians and Lithuanians and so on competing, and you've put together this great team. So do you want to talk us through the women?
Yeah, and look, I'll just preface it by saying the women were much harder to recruit than the men, and that was really interesting. Recent motherhood and injuries play a massive part in the world of an Olympic athlete that are much more so, well, they're on the injury side than on the men's side. You know, I talked to a lot of Paris Olympians who won medals who just said, I'm in rehab right now. I'm trying to fix my hip or my back or my neck. And you know, really just trying to get over some serious injuries that I hope they do get over them, that we're seeing on the women's side. And I don't know what studies are being done, follow up with international athletes. But that was something that really surprised me. But we've got some great women coming to represent the world team. I call it the World Dream Team. Nothing original, but from Australia, where I'm originally from, we've got Thomjpson, who is just an amazing young woman. She raced in Paris, also raced in Tokyo, won a medal in Tokyo, and is currently studying to be a doctor. So she's just a phenomenal person, and she'll be arriving on Tuesday. I've never met Rhea before, just talked to her on the phone, and amazing. Looking forward to meeting her. Yeah,
it's great. I think she's a Victorian originally, but I think she's gone up to Queensland or something. I've not spoken a lot to Rhea, but I'm really looking forward to commentating on her races. Okay, so that's one of your female athletes. Who's next?
We've got Kaylee Thilmer from Canada. I believe has done most of her international rowing on the sweep side, and was, I believe, in the Canadian 8 that was silver. Martin, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, silver in Paris, and in the pair that won bronze in Tokyo.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So double Olympic medalist, and I think she's an under-23 world championship and possibly world championship in the pair back before COVID. I'm not sure.
Yeah. She was magic in 2019. It was a tough season for Kaylee. She went through all sorts, and to come out and medal in the pair, and I think they led the New Zealanders. They were close to a gold in the 8, but it was a magical return for Kaylee. But she's also a Rio Olympian as well. And you know, she's done firefighting. She's spent loads of time on a bike in like semi-professional or professional teams. She's an incredibly resilient athlete, I think. So that's Kaylee. So then who else have we got?
I think this Olympic medalist was the first person to even say yes. Tabea Schendagkel from Germany.
Tabea, yeah.
You know her. I think you've interviewed her on Crossy's Corner in the past, possibly.
Yeah, she's one cool lady, Tabea. Good mates with Simon Van Dorp because they were both Huskies,
Yes.
and she had to put up. She came back from injury really into that quad, the Olympic crew, and she obviously made a difference to it, particularly in the second half of the course. So yeah, and she loves the States, obviously. So this will be a great trip for her. So that's Tabea, and then who's number 4?
Magdelena Lobnig.
Wow.
Yes. And my mind is a little scrambled. You're going to have to tell me where she won her medal because I feel like that a double.
Well, Magdalena, she's won loads of medals. I think, I saw her win a gold in the Europeans in 2016, where she was the only one who could cope with ridiculous crosswind and horrible, cross washes. But she won her Olympic bronze in Tokyo, where she finished behind the Russian competitor and Emma Twigg, but held off Vicky Thornley from Britain to get that all-important bronze, which was massive, obviously, for her and for Austrian sculling. She did have to deal with injury in the run-up to the Paris Olympics, and I think she'd hoped to compete with her sister in a double in Paris, but that wasn't to be. So she was in the single. I think she was in the B final somewhere, but obviously a great competitor. So that's the women's team. What about the men?
Well, on the men's side, I've always been a big fan of the Estonian scullers, and we've got one of the greats coming, and that is Tony Hendrickson. He is five, maybe 6, but at least
Maybe
5.
6. He's 6. I think he's 6.
6-time Olympian, yeah, and a medalist. Believe in Rio, he might have won a medal in the double.
Yeah, and you can add to that actually. It's not just Rio he's won a medal, because I think he won a medal back in Beijing in
Yes.
with what's his name, the Estonian Yuri Jansen.
Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, he got a silver medal in the Beijing Olympics, but he just missed a medal in the Athens Olympics. So he's done Athens, Beijing, London, Rio, Tokyo, and Paris was his 6th Olympics.
Yeah. Rower, just clearly loves his rowing.
Very upright style, the Estonians, and Alaraha, isn't it? He's the they were the engine room in the middle of that quad.
One thing, when I was a college coach 15 years ago, we had a lot of Estonians come to our college and row. And one of the things I really was just blown away by, they don't do steady state. It's all super light rowing. They do hours and hours of just really light rowing. In the afternoon, they'll go and play soccer and do things like that. So very, very different format to what a lot of other countries do. So that's interesting. And we've got Tonu's teammate, Ala Raja, who's also Olympic medalist from Tokyo, or maybe Rio as well.
Rio.
Yes.
I think, yeah.
And Ella came to Southern California in 2008 when I was living there, and I got to work with him a little bit before he made his first Olympics. Amazing guy, amazing guy. All the Estonians are great. And back then they were just a fascinating group because when they arrived in Los Angeles, they were more Russian than Estonian. They were very, very serious and yes, sir, and very deferring to authority. But let me tell you, after 5 months of living in Southern California, they became party boys and learned to really relax and enjoy themselves. And
wow,
fascinating people.
Yeah. So we got 2 more names, and they're big ones, aren't they, on the rest of the world men's team?
Big ones and interesting because we've got from Great Britain, we've got James Rudkin, who was in the British 8 that won gold, and now he's turning back into a sculler again, which I believe is what he did in his youth quite a bit. And I think, that's a fascinating story. I don't know if he's really looking to make a pivot here, or if he's just enjoying his rowing and sculling fits more in line with his work life right now. I'm not sure. I'm looking forward to talking to him about that. But James is just a fantastic catch to have come here. So thank you to you, Martin, for making that happen. You tell us about him.
Yeah, the Rudd dog from Newcastle University was his alma mater, and his dad was a great sculler. You used to be around when I was rowing, Andy Rudkin, and so James learnt to scull, and he was a very good, excellent, junior sculler. But I think he went to the Newcastle program, and they're a sweet program, so. And he showed promise and went into under 23s. I think I saw him win a silver medal in Rotterdam in 2016 in the British Four. And then really he had success in the eight, British eight post Tokyo, when they had that incredible run. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do in a single. And then the fourth member of the team, men's team.
Yeah, so the fourth member is a single sculler, and that's Simon van Dorp from the Netherlands, and he was bronze in Paris. Phenomenal rower. Really excited to have him come here and race. Wonderful guy to chat to on the phone too. Just you'd never think he was a elite. He's just so easygoing to talk to. And, excited to have him come.
Yeah, and I think the best race of the 2024 season. Well, actually, no, maybe it wasn't. I'm thinking women's quad Paris, men's pair Paris. But actually, I think the men's single in Lucerne was probably the best race, where Ollie Zeidler led all the way, but Simon van Dorp tracked him. And then the two of them were just blowing up together. But Ollie blew more than Simon. So Simon won gold on the Rotsey. Yeah, and if he brings that form, I'm not sure who'll get near him in the singles race. So tell us about the format and how people can watch, Gene.
Yeah, well, look, I think the format is going to make for some really interesting rowing, because we know we've got the American rowers who may not have the Olympic medals behind them, but they are very serious about competing at this year's World Championships at their highest level. They're coming into this race in peak form, having just done the speed order a few weeks ago. And then we've got some of the Olympic medalists who I think some of them are coming here, and this could be their swan song event. This could be part of their retirement. But I think, as you know, Martin, as Olympic gold medalist, no one wants to be showing up. No one wants their reputation to be diminished. So I think everyone's coming in really, really prepared for this race. So the format is, on Thursday night, we're going to have a welcome dinner for all the athletes. And at that point, we're going to draw names from the cup as to who races who in the single sculls. So
that's fun.
There's no ranking or anything like that. We're going to draw one American woman's name, one international woman's name. That'll be race one. And then another American, another international rower, race two. And it'll be a random draw, so they'll all find out who they're racing in the first round on Thursday night. And then in round two, and that'll be over 1,500 meters. And then in round two, we'll race women's quads, the Americans versus the Paris Olympics rowers. And that'll be 1,500 meters. And then the round three, we're going to race quads. And we'll just let the teams figure out which mixed quads there'll be. We'll have two mixed quads, two American mixed quads. And they'll be racing in a dash over a little bit under 300 meters at the end of the day. And each race is worth 4 points. So it's sort of a Ryder Cup style of racing, where you get points for each victory. And if all goes well, it'll all come down to that one last race. over 300 meters at the end of the day to determine who wins the Lenny Peters Cup.
Wow. Now, I know that the Lenny Peters Cup races are happening as part of a bigger North Carolina rowing championships.
Yes.
So I'm thinking, how do people know the timings of if they particularly want to watch? You know, let's just throw out there Van Dorp versus Rudkin, for example, if that comes out of the draw.
Would be Van Dorp
Not Van Dorp versus Rudkin. I mean Van Dorp versus Pihal. Sorry, I'm thinking it won't be. It'll be Team USA versus the rest of the world. And say they want to watch that. How would they know what time to tune in, and where can they tune in and watch this?
Yeah, so we'll post the draw on Thursday evening on the website lennypeterscup.com. And then if people want to watch the races live, it'll be streaming live on the Lenny Peters Cup YouTube page. It'll also be streaming live at World Rowing's YouTube page. And then for American audiences, you can also download the Fox 8 TV streaming platform, and it'll be live on that as well. And we'll have an entire day of racing, not just the Lenny Peters Cup races, but also the more significant races for the North Carolina Rowing Championships. We've got 500 boats racing in about 95 events on Saturday, and it's going to be full on all day. We'll have about possibly up to 6,000 people in the park watching, rowing, cheering. So it's going to be just a phenomenal regatta, I think.
Yeah, and there are people coming from Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, DC. I think even from Seattle. Is that not Seattle? Where's that Jim coming from?
We have some singles coming from Seattle. I'm not sure.
Yeah, from Seattle. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's crazy.
But it's mostly more of a regional event. We have, yes, Virginia, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, all the surrounding states around North Carolina. Really, really love to come to this event. We make it fun. We have big, giant, inflated ducks out there on the water. We have a tug of war race for the kids on shore in the middle of the day. We have a best in show dog competition. So it's more than just a event. We have a lot going on.
Yeah, and how much do you think events like the Lenny Peters Cup are going to be part of the future of rowing, Gene?
I think these types of things really are going to be the future of rowing. Just a personal opinion, and I think that I think Yosi has realised it. I think US Rowing has realised it. Our national team hasn't raced here in the US, I think, since the 2017 World Championships. If you want to have a successful national team, I think people have to see and know that you have a national team. I think. Yeah. It must get a little depressing sometimes when people have no idea, that your sport exists, that they don't get to see you race. Your parents have to travel to Europe to watch you race. So I think this is going to be the future, especially in America. And, what I hope this event will inspire is other regattas that realize, big regattas here in the US, that realized that they could incorporate this type of racing for the national team into their events. I'd love to see a full sweep team event, USA versus Great Britain, taking place up in Connecticut at one of their big regattas. And, there are people out there with a lot of financial means who could support that and make it happen. If we can do it here in High Point, I think up in some of the northeastern states, they can make that happen. And that'll just be huge for our national team to get that kind of budget.
Yeah, and you mentioned High Point's a 1,500 meter course, although I know it's a bigger lake and you can go around the ducks and race longer races. But have you developed any tips for racing 1,500 that the Los Angeles Olympians might be hoping to pick up?
No, we might find out. I mean, I'll have my ear to the ground on Saturday, listening to the rowers and sort of seeing how they react to it. I'd love to talk to Simon van Dorp. I think he's probably going to be the gold standard to knowing what the difference is and what he might do differently. But personally, I do not know. No, I'm looking forward to learning more about it.
And the commentary team, we said we'd briefly mention who's going to be who viewers are going to be listening to as they watch online.
Yeah, so obviously it's you leading the show, Martin, which I'm really, really excited about. Thank you for agreeing to fly out here for that. And you're going to be just great. And then the other two people on the commentary desk, who I'm really, really excited about, because I'm not sure either of them have actually ever commentated a race before. However, the first one is Emily Eldraka, and she is a Paris Olympian from the
Paralympian. Yeah.
Yes. Paris Paralympian. Is that correct to say
Yeah.
that way? Yeah. A medalist for the USA 4. And she was out here in the fall. She coached the Ukraine team. And that was my first time knowing her and meeting her. And when she showed up, all the girls on my high school team were like, how on earth did you get her, Gene? I thought I was some god that Emily was coming down to Cox through. I had not heard of Emily before that. And since then, I've just followed her on social media. She's so positive. She's so energetic. She did the commentary with you of the Oxford University here in High Point against High Point Union. And so she's just a real positive force, I think, that I'm looking forward to hearing her contribution on the live stream. And then we've got Etta Carpenter coming, and she's got a massive following here in the US right now, just for simply telling the NC2A to step up the game when it comes to showcasing women's rowing. They did just a horrible job at the last NC2A championships. She called them out on it in a very positive way and got a lot of support from a lot of people. I think the NC2A heard it and they're going to make changes as a result. And when I heard her make that, really just promoting the sport, I think promoting women's sport because it's an NC2A sport, but really just promoting the sport in general. When I do it in such a positive and constructive way, I thought that is somebody I would love to have on our commentary desk. And so I reached out to her and she said yes. I'm so excited. And she rode with the University of Texas. She's a 2-time NC2A champion. And I think she's going to be great. Very authentic person to have on the...
Yeah. That's magic. And talking about authentic people, Gene, maybe you can tell us a bit about you and rowing and where you fit into the sport.
Yeah, which part?
Any part.
Yeah, Martin, I recognised very early on in my early dreams of being a national team rower, I realised there was a massive difference between those who go on and win Olympic medals and make national teams and those that would just like to think about doing it. It's physical. It's also mental. I don't know if I ever had the physical ability. I'm pretty tall. I had pretty good erg score, but the people who are cut out like yourself to really go and compete at that highest level, you're a different standard. And I recognized that in myself, that was not my strength. But I just loved the sport. I loved all sport, really. I grew up playing cricket, Australian football. I loved all sport. And I looked at the sport and I just thought, gosh, this is a really poorly promoted sport. Again, one of the reasons why I loved Etta Carpenter speaking out about NC2As. And I thought it's a really poorly promoted sport. And this was from a very young age. This is when I was 20 years old. And so I've sort of quite often tried to play small roles where I could play a small difference. One of those was there was no one covering rowing in the local newspapers in Melbourne, Australia, when I was growing up. And so I called them up, the Age newspaper, and I said, hey, there's no one covering. Would you be interested in if I wrote something about the next regatta and just submitted it. And the editor at the time, sports editor, said, "Yeah, you've got a pretty." He said, "There's an event coming up. Why don't you write something about it this weekend? Local Melbourne regatta on the Yarra River." So they did the races. I wrote an article. They probably cut it in half. They printed it, and the sports editor called me up and he said, "Hey, that was pretty good. There's this guy, James Tompkins. He's seems like a pretty good rower. Why don't you write something about him?" And I said, "That'd be great." So I called up James Tompkins, who's the greatest rower ever to row for Australia. And this is before he won his gold medals. And I called him up and said, "James, would you like to come around for lunch? And, as you know, I'm writing for the newspaper, and I'd like to talk to you about your story." And so he said yes. My mother was very excited because her father, King's Cup rower, I think he rode in 4 or 5 King's Cups, which is the interstate race in Australia. And we grew up looking at his old silver trophies and photographs in his garage. And so she was very excited and made this lovely lunch for us. And in this lunch, I was talking to James and I said, "James, in Australia, you'll always go up to Canberra every year to form an 8 and we never win. Why don't you think with all the talent we have in Victoria that maybe, especially at Mercantile Rowing Club, maybe we could row 4 and do much better?" And he said, "Yeah, I do actually think that. That would be a much better move. But, I'm just the rower. I leave those decisions to other people." And I said to him, "Well, would you mind if we touched on that in this article that I'm planning on writing?" And he said, yeah, that's fine. And so I wrote this article. It came out the Thursday before the state trials for, actually it was the national team trials, which were in Victoria that year. The day of the trials. And the headline was, "Tompkins has point to make at trials." And everybody standing around the shore had this newspaper out there with this headline. And one of the guys, I was standing next to James, or a little bit away from him, and someone said to him, "That guy's really throwing you under the bus there, James, made you look bad." He goes, "Nah, that's actually the point I think we need to make." And from that, someone went to Russell Barkley, who was the head coach up in Canberra, and said, "Hey, we need to keep our guys here in Melbourne. We need to make a 4." And he said, "Absolutely, it makes sense." He knows. He came from, I think, East Germany. He knew what good rowing was all about.
Yeah.
And that was the formation of the Awesome Foursome. And they went on and won the World Championships in 1990. I think you raced against them, possibly.
Yeah. It was sort of just, I don't know, 3/4 of a length down for 3/4 of the race on them in second place, but we ended up coming 4th. But yeah, that was an amazing run, wasn't it? And to be part of that, even in a small way, is just like phenomenal. So,
So I think what really came from that is the whole mentality in Australian rowing was, we need to look at who our franchise players are and rally around them and build boats around them, rather than we need to focus on the 8 or, do what we've always done. And so they started looking more at the athletes. It was an athlete-centered approach rather than a boat-centered approach. And Australia had phenomenal results ever since. So that was a very tiny, tiny role I played with that little newspaper article, but I do think it changed things for the better for Australia. And ever since then, I've just been involved in coaching, running regattas, doing things like this, and loving the sport all my life.
Okay, well that's great. So we'll finish off now, unless there's anything that we need to say that we haven't. But so what time is the live stream kicking off on Saturday, the 12th of April?
Yeah, so it'll kick off on Saturday at about 8:10 in the morning. That is add 5 hours for London, so 9, 10, 11, 12, 1:10 in the afternoon London time.
And 2:10 in Europe.
2:10 in Europe. And we'll have some of the more important races from the regional standpoint getting shown. we'll have all the athletes arriving on the red carpet. At the regatta, we'll have interviews with the athletes as they walk the red carpet. It's going to be the Academy Awards meets World Rowing, in my opinion. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Wow, that's amazing. Can't wait, Gene. Thank you so much for talking. It's been wonderful. We could go on for a lot longer, but you said 20 minutes, and I thought, no, you'd be a lot longer than that. But let's call that a day. It's going to be a Saturday evening for you soon. It's Saturday night for me now. So thank you very much, Gene, and look forward to seeing you later this week.
Thanks so much, man. Take care.
So we'll end the live part of this interview now.